Okay, everybody, we are live, and I want to thank everybody that's joining us tonight. We really appreciate you. Whether you watch live or come on and watch later, it's all good. We have a lot of fun in the chat here. I see that Angela's here and Chris Elliott's here, and Bruce, the R&B show is here too. That's awesome.
Oh man.
And yeah, hey Bruce, I've got a link up above you if you want to scroll up and pop on and help us out here a bit, brother. Go up there above. Well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and put the link on again. We won't.
I lost connection there for a second, Royce. Did you invite Bruce?
Well, no, but I wanted to, and I'm glad he's here. Okay, Bruce, I just put a link up, and go ahead and hit that link, brother, and we'll bring you right on. Michael, where'd you go? Okay.
I'm here.
All right. So anyway, what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be talking about iconic hooks and intros on rock songs. And there's so many of them out there. The list just goes on and on. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that is recognizable, I mean, to me, from a single note. And we're going to play little snippets of some of those tonight. And I think we're going to have a good time. Caitlin Stoddard's here. Hi, Kate. Angela. Hi, Chris Elliott. And Bruce. Bruce looks like we sent a link out there for Bruce if he wants to pop on and join us.
Come on up here, Bruce.
Get on up.
Hey, you know what, Royce? I just saw probably 60% of one of Bruce's brand new videos. It just came out in the last 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that.
Okay.
And the question of the video is the Doors album, and I'll let Bruce tell you about it.
Okay.
Is it overrated? A certain Doors album, really great video.
Doors album, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's by both of them this time.
I wonder if he's talking about Riders on the Storm.
You know what? It was God, the one they were going through. I even had to type in, "I'll be back," because I was scheduled to show up with you tonight. So I didn't finish the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Michael. So we're gonna R&B show is up, but there's no you can't see.
No picture.
The screen is black, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's see.
He may have to just reconnect.
Yeah, he may have to reconnect. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get going here. I've been saying hi to a couple of people while we've been talking, and let's see. So anyway, we're going to talk about these iconic intros. And again, once again, some of these are recognizable by a single note, and others a few notes. But you know what? You can't get them out of your head. That's why they're such great hooks. And for George Harrison, as far as I was concerned, was the king of the hooks. He wasn't the fastest guitar player in the world. He wasn't, like Eddie Van Halen and some of the others, but he had the hooks. And man, he played a couple of notes, and you were drawn in, and you never got those notes out of your head, and you knew instantly when you heard them again. And that's a hook. It hooks you right into the song. And he did a fantastic job. And I've always considered George Harrison the king of the hooks. And how about you, Michael?
I think he's one of them. As a matter of fact, I just did a video on the most underrated guitarists, and it's actually a conglomeration of two older videos from my channel I did last year.
Okay.
So I actually cover a total of 12 guitarists that I think are vastly overrated. And one of the things I stated on that video was that not only is George Harrison vastly underrated as a guitarist, but that I also felt Andy Summers of the Police is vastly underrated, and he's George Harrison on freaking steroids,
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Well, George is one of those guitarists that really had to work at his craft. He came into the Beatles with all kinds of licks, but they were, for the most part, a lot of the rockabilly licks that the Beatles loved at that time. And that wore out really quickly. And thank God the Beatles then went on to actually develop musically. And George went off for a couple of years on to sitar, but when he returned, from that point on, man,
Right.
the man came into himself. Hi, Bruce.
Right.
How you doing, buddy?
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
We can see you now.
How you doing, Bruce? How you doing, Bruce? Let me introduce all the hosts here to my this okay. Next to me is Dan McNew, just the facts man. Dan's got a great show, and he's covered so many just famous things. I mean, Dan's video of the space shuttle exploding is the most played video of that incident by bar none. I mean, Dan's got some great stuff out there. Dan's met Elvis Presley when what were you, 17 years old in Hawaii?
15.
Yeah, and I've seen that video a few times, and it's a lot of fun to see Elvis and his whole crew get out of the helicopter and Dan standing there. How old were you again? 15?
I was 15, yeah.
15, yeah. And, you get to meet Elvis and all that. And Dan's got a great show, and I highly recommend everybody go to Dan's show. And over here, directly below me is Bruce. He's the B in R&B, the R&B show, him and his partner. And they have a fantastic show. I highly recommend everybody go check out the R&B show, subscribe to it, and just enjoy watching it more than anything else, because it's a really good show. And directly below Dan, just man, is Michael Nolan, the bottom line. And Michael's got
with sparkly fingers and everything.
Well, having watched several shows, I don't know if I've ever seen one that has grown as fast as Michael. Michael's the bottom line, because it's just such a good, well thought out quality show, and it's like a hook. We're talking about hooks tonight. Your show is like a hook, and when you watch it, you just keep coming back for more. And I mean,
thank you, Royce.
I think the first time I saw your show, you were 400 subscribers.
Oh yeah,
that's within the past year. Michael now has over 25,000 subscribers. Now that type of growth is just phenomenal.
Well, you know what, Royce? It was during those. I was going to say it was during those times, and that was only about a year ago, if you can believe that.
Right.
It's right around that time that I found you, and I found one of these guys. Anyway, where I found Ron and Bruce doing their stuff, man.
Yeah.
And I've been a total fan of both channels ever since. You and Dan put together what I consider the most eclectic stream on the internet right now. I think you guys do a great job.
Well, thank you. And Dan,
I mean it too. I really mean that. Yeah.
I really appreciate Dan, and I really appreciate what you just said, Michael. I really do.
Oh, I wouldn't be here otherwise, man. You know that.
Right.
I'm heartless. You better be good.
We've been joined by a couple of other great guys. We've got Novice Nick. Novice is great. You guys got to go check Novice Nick out. We also have been joined by Michael Chavez, my friend Michael Chavez. So anyway, guys, thank you all very much for showing up. What we're going to start out with right now is Dan and I were like two great minds thinking alike here. I got a late start. He's probably done a much better job than me as usual. But we've both made some small clips, and I'd like to hear an audience reaction to some of these small clips and see who can recognize some of these songs. Dan, I'd like you to maybe we can trade off doing a couple. Or how many do you have?
I have 5 of them.
That's all I made was 5 or 6. So if you want to go through yours, go ahead, and then I'll do mine. These clips,
even 1 second clips, these are the type of songs. As soon as you hear that first note, you're reaching for the volume. You want to crank it up. It's usually your favorite song, because that's why it's so recognizable. You just love that song. So let's see if anybody in the chat can guess what this first one is.
Okay, good. Okay, guys. I happened to see that band twice at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I really like that band.
Fantastic.
I'll give them a hint. Canadian?
the second best Canadian band of all time.
No, they were good. They were very entertaining.
Okay.
They were great.
Well, Frank James got it. Frank James in the chat got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
American
the
Woman.
first one.
Yeah, American Woman by let's see, Frank James. What did Frank James say here?
Take a wild guess. Guess.
Yeah, the Guess Who. The Guess
Who?
American Woman by the Guess Who. Okay, awesome. Okay, what do you got, Dan?
Okay, here's another one. You probably got to be in your 50s or 60s to really know this one, so it's for the older folks. It's got a long name.
Anybody? I don't know if Caitlin's just talking to somebody or about the song. She says, "Stay away from me."
Hint. A lot of hyphens too.
Yeah.
I think Frank James got this one too.
Oh wow, Frank's killing it.
And Angela got it. And Plastic Soundwave Cult got it.
Oh no, you got to be kidding me! In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've got 2 copies of the yellow one. Ball, it says Ball on it, and then I've got the other album with the, I don't know, 10, 17 minute or whatever version of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. The one whole side is In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Let me put it that way.
Well,
This
you know
next
what's
one-
just as recognizable as that organ beginning, even more recognizable, is if they had started that song at.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't have recognized that, right?
Right. Yeah, who wouldn't have recognized that? That would have been almost cheating.
Yeah.
And this next little clip is probably the most requested encore song. Everybody always yells this at the end.
Oh yeah. All right.
And they requested at other people's
Okay.
concerts too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you just did the 1 second clip on each one.
Just
of those.
1 second.
1 second. I know.
Okay, we got it.
Okay. Novice Nick has it. Novice Nick's
Yep.
got it. Anybody else? Yeah, DJH Record Hound's got it. Yeah, great. Well, isn't that amazing? I mean, talk about a hook. A 1 second clip,
Here's one that if you're from Texas, you got to know this one.
I got news for you, Dan. If you're from California, you know that one.
One of my favorite bands, Novice Nick.
Man.
All right, who's got this one?
Well, that's a good guess by Chris Elliott, but that's not right. DJ Record Hound got it.
Nice.
LaGrange, ZZ Top.
ZZ Top, yeah. Awesome.
And this last one will take you back to the early 70s.
Okay.
So if you're a millennial, you may not know this one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guesses out there?
Hint, hallowed be his name.
Any guesses? There we go. Michael Chavez got it. Rocky Mountain Way. Joe Walsh.
Yeah,
1973, I believe.
okay. Right. Now, was that your 5th and final?
That was the 5th and final.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I've got a couple. I don't know if mine are going to be as clear as yours. You did a better job doing that. One note. One note. Let's see who's got that.
Hint, the most debated chord in rock history.
I'm gonna play it one more time.
Chris Elliott got it. Well, he did. Where'd he go? Oh, yeah. There he is. He got
Hard
it.
Day's Night. It's been that's it. That's it. Okay, next. I played that one a little too long, I think.
Woo! Oh, things got warm in
Gloria's
here.
joined us. Hi, Gloria. Good to see you here, as always.
And how many movies has that one been licensed to?
Oh God, tell me about it. Oh. Even in comedies, Bruce. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got this one yet? Novice Nick said, "Let's."
Oh, DJ.
Sure he's talking about. Okay, here we go. Let's
DJ
get it
H
on.
Record Hound.
DJ H Record Hound's got it.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy. All right. What do we got next here? What do we got next? Okay. All right. Anybody know what that is?
No, this one's got me stumped.
Yeah.
Good evening, guys. Daddy Bog. Me and Daddy Bog and Dan all go back a long ways, don't we, Dan?
Yep. About 3 years.
Yeah, I like that video you made. It's still out there, you know. The one on
Play that one again, Royce.
Pardon me?
Play that cut.
Okay, let's do this again. Here we go.
Oh, I think somebody got it in the audience. I think Angela may have gotten it.
Okay, let's see.
Is it a live cut?
Yeah, that's it. Prince, Let's Go Crazy.
Oh, good call. Angela got that, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Angela, great job. That was a tough one. Well, David Vinyl Digs up here has Prince question mark, and so he was right in there too.
Man, I wasn't even in that ballpark, man.
Okay, let's see what else we have here. We've got something. Okay. Well, give me a moment.
I got one more here I can do real quick while you're doing that.
Go ahead, Dan.
This one is so easy. Everybody ought to get this one.
Wow! I feel good.
James, I shouldn't have said anything. Royce, what concert ticket did I win?
Well, you were going to say James Paul McCartney, weren't you, Royce? And you're wrong. You were going to say James Paul McCartney, right?
Right. Anyway, did anybody get that last one?
Yeah, Caitlin got James Brown.
Yeah. So Daddy Boggs has got it. Yeah, Caitlin's got it. Yeah, James Brown is amazing, you know. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we got next. I know that was almost like cheating. I let that go too long. I could have seen a couple, but not 4 or 5. Great song.
Yeah, I know.
First song by this artist that I heard of with him just by himself, and I just fell in love with it. Yeah.
There we go. Cinnamon Girl.
And I got the album for 88 cents.
Okay.
88 cents.
Michael Chavez. Daddy Boggs wanted to know if it was Cocaine by Eric Clapton. That would have been a good one too.
You know, it does sound kind of like that.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
And Cocaine is on my list tonight. Later on, I didn't know we were doing clips, but I do have a list for later. But Cocaine is on that list as one of those songs. You just hear the first few chords and you know right where it is, you know. Absolutely. And that goes back to what you were talking about, Royce. You were talking about how important a hook is. And on my list, the hook isn't always the guitar or the keyboards.
No, it can be the drums. It can be anything.
How about an American Band by Grand Funk?
Oh yeah,
right?
The drum intro.
The drum intro, right there. You know, before a single note, actual note, although drums technically play notes, but they're not necessarily discernible as specific notes, right? But before a note is played, you know you're listening to an American band.
Oh yeah, and
So
how many great keyboard players are there too? I mean,
Yeah.
I can
yeah.
think of one. How
Stevie
about
Winwood, child prodigy, playing in bands when he's 8 years old.
yeah? How about Bach is a great keyboardist who can write a hook? How about his what is that toccata and fugue in I think it's D minor, right?
Right, right.
Na 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 na. Right? Everybody knows exactly where you are when those notes are played.
Wow, look at this. Jeff Davison's a lucky man. He got to see Grand Funk.
Oh,
I haven't seen Grand Funk.
So
I haven't seen Grand Funk since 1974.
oh, that would have been a good time.
Well, that's when American Band had just come out.
Mhm.
And to me, that was one of the first bands I ever saw that actually put on a video production during their performance. They had like when they Closer to Home, I'm Your Captain.
Oh yeah.
They had a big video screen behind with that showed seagulls flying. It was out in the oceans. That's pretty cool. First time I ever saw that, where they actually had a video production with the band.
Yeah.
That's been almost 50 years ago.
Oh, they were such a great band. They, they are on my list of demagogue bands. They're demigod bands. That's a group of 13 bands that just missed the top 13 bands. So they're in the top 25 bands of rock and roll easily, and for many reasons. Mark Farner, the greatest guitarist to ever live? No, right? Drummer, the greatest drummer? No, although boy, he almost hits that list.
Yeah.
And the bassist, the greatest bassist? No, Mel. Sorry, greatest singers? No, but they got two primo singers. But when they blend all that crap together, guys, what do you get, man? You get an absolutely primo band. And Grand Funk needs to get in contact with Mark Farner. This is bullshit, man. This is bullshit. Because it's not Grand Funk without him.
Yeah.
Exactly. The drum riff to $1 Billion Babies is a great non-guitar intro.
Yep.
Nice.
Hey,
Nice,
I need to step away for a second. I got to hook up my router. I'm getting a bad signal here.
Okay, I'm going to see if I've got anything else here. That played way too long. that played way too long. Let me see. One of the best hooks, Jive Talkin', the Bee Gees. Yeah, yeah. The Bee Gees have some good stuff, really good stuff. Hey, Royce.
Still waiting to hear it, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm a Bee Gees fan. Don't get me wrong, but
no, I have a bunch of Bee Gees albums.
I am not a great fan of their disco period. I liked them way before that, and they kind of lost me during that period. But you got to understand, I was a musician. I was playing the clubs. They were ripping up the bandstands, putting in a damn ball that twirled around, and putting musicians out of work right and left. I lived through that crap, and so I wasn't a big fan of disco anyway, just for that.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, there are some interesting disco songs. I'm just not a big fan of the whole genre, and I was glad to see it go.
That was a big part of the narrative of their documentary too. If you watch the Bee Gees documentary, that sort of turning point with that latter 70s period, you can see that there was a lot culturally beneath that too. But that was also a very big shift that divided a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's exactly right. A whole bunch of people got like a Rolling Stone, and I said it myself. I made it way too easy. Angela goes, "Yeah, you made that easy." Okay. Well, anyway, let me see if I've got one more here. I don't even know for sure. Let's see. Oh, I absolutely do have a couple more. I think a couple of good ones too. Okay. Okay, hold on, folks. Sorry.
While you're figuring that out, how about a drum intro to My Sharona? Not a note, yeah. But you know you're listening to that song, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I don't know why. I don't know why a couple of these aren't playing.
I'm muted. There we go.
Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. Anybody? 3 notes. 3 notes.
Man, I know it, and it's just missing me by that much.
I'm gonna play it again. Okay.
Oh my God, it's right close, man. I hate that.
DJH, time is on my side. The Rolling Stones.
That's it. Oh.
David's final digs. DJH got it. Yes, he did. Stones.
Good job, man. Great.
All right.
Great ear.
I do have a couple more. Okay, Michael, if you don't get this one. Okay.
And Michael, you know, we both did videos on these guys recently too, so we should know that one.
No,
all right, we'll play it again. I'm not trying to make this difficult.
I know. I know the band. I can't remember the name of the song.
Okay, no one's got it. No one's got it in the chat yet.
I think Frank James did.
Let's see. Where's Frank at? Frank James. Where the Streets Have No Name.
That's the right band?
Close.
Yeah, but it's the wrong song though. But that's really close.
Yeah. You're in the ballpark.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark. Streets Have Angela, you too. Yes, it's definitely you too, Angela. All right. You guys all gonna give up on me? In the name of Yes, Caitlin got it.
In the Name of Love.
Caitlin got it. You too, In the Name of Love. You nailed it, Caitlin. Good job. Let's see what else I have here. I loaded more than I thought I did.
You know, I'm pretty good at figuring out these songs. You know, from the rock genre. But if you put country western on there, I would never guess.
Oh, really, Dan? Here's a country song for you. How about this? Tex-Mex horns playing this. Right? No? Nobody?
Blood Red Sky, The Music Sanctuary. Hey, Music
Johnny
Sanctuary.
Cash, Ring of Fire, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You hear those trumpets and, man, you know what song you're listening to.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I think I've gone through it all that I had. I mean, there was one that's not playing real well. Okay, here. Perfect. I don't think anybody really heard that. Okay.
Well, what about the note heard around the world? The number one song you can recognize every single time with one note.
Okay. Hard Day's Night.
No, although that's actually a chord. So nice. Okay, I'll give you a point for that, boys.
Okay.
How about I Feel Fine?
Oh, I Feel Fine.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear that feedback. You hear that feedback, and you know exactly where you are without a note being played except for that hum. That was accomplished, by the way, with John had leaned up his Gibson J1, whatever it is, acoustic electric, actually acoustic song guitar equipped with electronics, all right? And he had it leaned up against Paul's bass amp. And Paul plucked an A note. And it made John's guitar feed back through Paul's amp. And both of them were astounded And John was one that came up and said, hey, can we put that in? He goes, well, to George Martin. George Martin went, he was kind of doubtful, but he says, well, we can try it and I can fly it on in. And that's how that note got put in. It was sheer accident. And John Lennon was quoted, I defy anyone to claim feedback before that, unless it's some 1922 jazz album that I have never heard. He says, I claim it for the Beatles. So for all you, heavy metal fans that can't stand the Beatles, you're welcome.
That one that I played that was hard to hear. Chris Elliott and Ella was Come Together by the Beatles.
Ah, yeah.
And
I got a little one here.
Frank James mentioned the song. This is a one-noter here too. I can't get no satisfaction. That first note, come on. I mean, that's very. Didn't he play that on an acoustic guitar, Keith Richards?
I know that John Lennon played that on an acoustic guitar, on that same acoustic guitar and yet listen to it, folks. It sounds like a damn electric guitar. It's an acoustic with a little pickup put in.
Right, little pickup.
That's all it is, and it sounds electric as hell, man. They really did a great job. Yeah, the Beatles, man.
Right. Smoke on the Water. Angela's absolutely right. One note there. I think that's a one-noter.
Yeah.
Caitlin Stoddard, Fire in the Sky. Frank James. Good one, Angela. That was a good one, Angela. Okay, Daddy Boggs. Okay, this is, Start Me Up, Brown Sugar, California Girls, and Vanilla Fudge. Hey, Daddy Boggs, how about Good Vibrations? Don't tell me that isn't like instantaneous good vibrations. Vanilla, okay, California Girls and Vanilla Fudge. You keep me hanging on. Oh yeah, Start Me Up. Yeah, those are all 1-2 noters right there as far as I'm concerned.
How about the beginning riffs? I'm looking at my list. How about the beginning riffs of Secret Agent Man? Recorded live at the Whiskey A Go-Go by Johnny Rivers, man. Right. That's one of those riffs every beginning guitarist kind of learns to play. It's you sliding that E chord up so that your first finger on the G string makes that descending line, man. How about the first crystal clear keyboards of na 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 na, hey hey hey. The second you hear those crystal clear, you're going into that song. How about Day of the Eagle? If you're a Robin Trower fan, I mean, if before the rest of the song settles down, what you're listening for. Summer Breeze by Seals and Croft with that nice acoustic guitar and the finger picking going, and you just want their voices to start singing. I brought up Johnny Cash and the Tex-Mex trumpet intro, Whitebird, the mandolin intro to that, and all of a sudden it's White Bird in a golden cage. What a beautiful song. How about the percussion instrument to Kokomo by the Beach Boys? And then if that doesn't get you, the low baritone voice does the next second. There's tons of the Liar by Three Dog Night with that guitar riff. I mean, how about the intro to what was the name of that song I was thinking? Mungo Jerry. In the summertime. You're in that song 1 second, right where you are. You're home. Right.
How about this one?
The Music Sanctuary, I think Stairway to Heaven could be 1 to 2 notes.
Yep. I agree.
Here's one that's vocals.
Okay.
By Blue Swede. Hooked on a Feeling. Hookah Chaka.
Absolutely. Sold an entire franchise too on top of that, Dan. I mean, a lot of the success to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies were based on those type of songs being put into the soundtrack. You almost expect it.
Right.
How about the beginning? Just the trilling pianos of Ride, Captain, Ride.
Yeah,
Right.
Michael, you were talking about like acoustic intros. How about Wish You Were Here with Pink Floyd?
Bingo.
When you hear it,
yes.
You know, or if we talk about Beatles riffs, you know, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
I don't know, but if that ever introduced a TV show, it would never make it.
To the bat poles.
Love it.
Hungry
Well,
Heart.
we were talking earlier about Beatles riffs. Day Tripper, Paperback Writer.
Oh, Day Tripper. Yeah, Day Tripper, Paperback Writer. How about And I Love Her? Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
And guess what, Royce? You were talking about George Harrison earlier.
Yes.
George wrote that. Dun, 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 dun. That's his whole orchestration. Paul has many times said, I didn't write that. George wrote that piece. And that is so identifiable with that song. It would have been a pleasant song before it. It then became a classic, rock classic ballad.
That little riff right there. Yeah, that was amazing. I think I learned how to play that when I was 12 years old, you know.
I have 3 titles for the bassists out there whenever we get around to like the opening bass riffs.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I'm betting I know one because it's also on one of my lists, but you go first, man, because I've had my say.
We already addressed Come Together. We heard that one, obviously. Walking on the Moon, The Police would be one of them.
Yeah.
You hear that opening. Money by Pink Floyd, unmistakable. That one.
7/8 time. 7/8 time, and everybody loves that song. Let's write a #1 hit. Well, let's write it in 7/8 time. That's great.
The Temptations, Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah. Under Pressure by Queen.
Bass intro to White Rabbit. That's who I thought you might list.
Rabbit.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Well, you did. You just mentioned. Yeah, you just mentioned Queen, Under Pressure.
Yeah.
That one can be confused with Vanilla Ice.
Not to me.
Not if you ask Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice is a whole different story on that.
Staying Alive, the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, iconic for a number of reasons. Encapsulates a disco era. Immediately recalls John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever. that was a fun time. Yeah, those were good songs. The Beach Boys, I mentioned Good Vibrations. ABBA, Dancing Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson, Beat It.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. Okay.
So here's another good one.
How about Nancy Sinatra, Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down? That guitar, that tremolo guitar intro, man. It's awesome.
Right?
And if you're a Heart fan, how about the bass intro to Barracuda?
Barracuda, yeah.
Barracuda, yeah.
Dazed and Confused?
Not if you ask Suge Knight.
Yeah. down.
Okay, I love this Riders on the Storm. And I noticed there's behind Bruce is a Doors album sitting up there.
Yeah.
And I heard a little rumor about that, but not too much.
Yeah, I've been immersed in
I
all
was
things
thinking
Doors
when I heard you were going to talk about a Doors album, I was thinking Riders on the Storm, that album.
How about 2 Doobie Brothers songs? Listen to the Music and Long Train Running. Down to the, you know, right where you are. Or One of These Nights by the Eagles.
Right.
You know, that big, boom.
Yeah, here's one by the Monkees. Caitlin will like this one. Last Train to Clarksville.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah, no, that's great too. That reminds me, that was the same era for me on the guitar, a little acoustic guitar at home as Secret Agent Man that Michael brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That Last Train to Clarksville. An older friend of my brother's, my brother was 9 years older than me. He had a friend called, his name was Larry Moog. Everybody called him Moog. And he lives out here in Lompoc, about an hour from me. And every time I run into him, he goes, "You still playing Last Train to Clarksville?" Whenever he came over, I used to play that for him.
I'm surprised nobody has mentioned the use of a root note, its octave, and a flatted fifth. All right, Black Sabbath, the track Black Sabbath. Boom, bam, bam. I mean, the devil's note, the flatted fifth. I mean, the second you hear those three notes, you're into the song. You are totally hypnotized, man.
Well, what do you think about the Sabbath song that's up on the screen right now from Chris Elliott, the bass intro?
Oh yeah. Nice choice.
Another Black Sabbath one that's really recognizable, I believe it's Paranoid, where it starts off with the air raid sirens.
Oh, how about Iron Man? Iron Man instantly. I mean, that's like a half a note. You know?
Well, yeah. Well, that's how I always say, like Tony Iommi, he's not in my top 10, but he barely misses it. But I always say that, man, Tony Iommi is one of the greatest riff masters in rock. That's his secret, man.
Sure.
He's like a songwriter for the guitar. You know what I mean? It's like his stuff. Yeah. If he had decided to go that way, there would have been a career for him doing his version of heavy metal guitar pieces with a band instead of having a lead vocalist, and he would have been quite entertaining. In my view, I mean, I think he's wonderful.
Yeah. Plus, not only that, he's actually plays with a handicap.
That's right.
With his fingers.
Yeah, well,
that's right.
Got cut off in a job-related accident, I think.
Yeah.
But I took two Black Sabbath tapes out to my truck about 3 weeks ago, and it took me 3 weeks to bring them back in the house.
Yeah.
One was a 2-album set, the reunion with the original Tony Iommi, the whole original band got back together.
Yeah.
Put out a double album set. This was CD, actually. It was in my truck, and the other one was No More Tears. Like I said, it took me 3 weeks to take those out of my truck and bring them back in the house, replace them with something else. So yeah, no, those are great. And Daddy Boggs hits the nail on the head here. I've told the story more than once. I used to walk around with my little transistor radio in my shirt pocket with a single earplug in. I think we got maybe one good channel came in. There in Henderson, Nevada, the Vegas channel, Kino, I think was the name of it. And when I heard Chuck Berry sing in No Particular Place to Go, I completely lost it. That cemented my my love of rock and roll right there. There was no turning back. My father was big into country. He was always trying to push country down me and my younger brother's throat, and that was okay, And we like some country too. Don't get me wrong. And I still like some country, a lot of it. In fact, I like the old probably more than the newer country.
Yeah.
But I do like a lot of country music, and I have a lot of country albums.
I like a lot of the edgier new country myself.
I like it too. But I tell you, nothing like
where it's got almost a tinge of rock and roll, but honest rock. I love that kind of country.
Right.
It's almost like they're leaning on rock and roll. Like, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I was going to say, like bands like Zac Brown that aren't that old as far as country goes. That's a great band, Zac Brown. That Toes in the Sound song, all of them, they were all good. I've got that album. It's on brown vinyl, I think. So anyway,
I've got a story about Zac Brown. Zac Brown and his band, they performed here in my little city that I live in. And at the time, this is when I was working with the police department. And I was told, I was part of security for Zac Brown. I had no idea who this guy was. He was trying to get backstage. I didn't let him get backstage. He goes, "Well, I'm with the band." "Well, who are you?" "I'm Zac Brown." "Okay."
Well, we've got our Paso Robles Fairgrounds, and I can't tell you how many great concerts I've seen up there. Everybody from Eddie Van Halen's reunion with David Lee Roth. I saw them, and the highlight of that show was Eddie Van Halen came out and did the encore by himself, pulled a little wooden chair up in front of the microphone and soloed for at least 20 minutes. And it was just, we all just sat there with our mouths wide open, And but I've seen Bob Dylan, I've seen Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, actually them together, and they played together after they both did their sets. But I've seen a lot of great, even one of Slash's bands, let's see. Slash had two different. Well, he's got the Miles Kennedy thing now, but a while back he had that singer from Stone Temple Pilots singing.
Velvet Revolver.
Velvet Revolver, yeah. So I've seen a lot of great rock acts there, but it is a country fair. You've got all the farm animals, FFA, and all that stuff, and all the kids bringing their goats and sheep and cows and pigs, and so they really always have a little more country than rock, although they have a lot of good rock. And I mean, I remember when Alabama, which was a great band, came 6 years in a row to the Paso Fairgrounds. I think we saw them at least twice, but I saw so many great country acts there. It was just amazing. And Earl Conley, and just huge list.
Daddy
well, my background, Royce, has always been country. Both my parents were country and western.
Yeah.
My mom was a country and western singer. My dad was a country and western singer, songwriter, blah, blah, blah. He played with Buck Owens. So, I mean, I couldn't get country out of my soul to save my soul. I mean, but growing up, I absolutely hated most of I'm not a fan of the Tammy Wynette days. I'm not that Hollywood glitzy time. I'm not saying they weren't great singers. I'm not saying they didn't have good hits, but they were I didn't like the glitzy crowd, I was more into, the more bare bones country, the real almost, and I loved it when certain country acts would lean on rock and roll, kind of like rock and roll leaned on the country acts. So with the Eagles, Poco, all of those bands, right? I'm sorry, Dan. I think you and I stepped on each other, but you backed off and I finished. So go ahead.
I was going to mention, Daddy Bog mentioned Badfinger, Baby Blue. That's a good intro. Also, not only that one, but Day After Day. Now, I'm not sure if George Harrison's playing that intro or not, because he helped with,
Yep, he is. Yep, he is.
Is he the one playing?
Yep. They invited him in. Yep.
Slide, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that. Yeah. That's back to you, Royce. You brought up Harrison. What's that?
Frank James says Zach Brown looks like a roadie, and he does.
He does.
Well, when it comes to country, I think my dad liked George Strait, and he liked Hank Williams Sr., and I still listen to Hank Sr., but I also love his son, Bocephus. He has some great stuff too, and I never forget, we were little kids, me and my younger brother, Richie. I was probably like 9 or 10, and he was like 7 or 8, I don't know. But we were sitting in a place having breakfast with my dad, and the jukebox came on, and it was Johnny Cash singing Ring of Fire. And it was no matter where you went, you were hearing that. It was just huge at the time. And so I said to my dad, I go, "Hey, Dad, you like Johnny Cash?" And he goes, no, not really. I was really shocked when he said that. I'm like, how come you don't like Johnny Cash? He's great. And my dad goes, he's a hophead. And I didn't even know what that was, but I kind of figured it out quickly there.
You mentioned Hank Williams. I actually hired Hank Williams III to play at one of my events probably about 10 years ago.
The third.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's actually in heavy metal and country, which is odd. He does both.
Wow. Now there's a blend I hadn't thought of.
Jethro Tull.
Heavy metal country.
Oh, well, if you're going to mention that, what about Aqualung?
Aqualung, yeah. Right.
Man, immediately,
Well, I'm really grateful I saw him in concert at least once. And it was in Las Vegas where I lived. Most of the concerts we saw were at the Las Vegas Convention Center, but he was at the Ice Palace. It was an ice skating rink in Las Vegas that was pretty popular. We used to go once in a while. I don't think my ankles ever got used to it. But it was great, man. I mean, to see that guy up on stage with a flute and that long hair, and I mean, it was really a sight to behold, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. I saw them also, Royce. They were just phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal.
I also saw him at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I I saw Black Sabbath there. I think it was 72. And then again at the California Jam in 75 at the Ontario Speedway in California.
Yeah.
Very interesting lyricist, too.
Oh, he's one of my favorite songwriters, Bruce.
Yeah.
I mean, just on Ian Anderson's songwriting alone, he would have made it.
Yeah.
And has made it.
Yeah.
You know, oh man, where do you begin with? They are one of the phenom bands of all time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting. We were talking about, you know, Aqualung, that whole album. Ian Anderson just absolutely has always hated the mix on that album. And over on Rachel's Ghost, they were talking about albums that, you know, have weird mixes. They didn't like it today a little bit. And I was thinking of that album as being one, and others had brought up the first Crosby, Stills and Nash album as being poorly recorded. And I hear these masterpieces, you know, and if they can be repaired and expanded properly like they did with Revolver, because I'm going to be doing a video coming up on what I expect off of Rubber Soul coming up. And it's all going to be based on what I've heard and listened to, what I want. I'm not going to speculate on what, you know, cuts or obscure cuts too much on that, but I'm just going to be covering that. But, you know, if you think about those two albums with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Aqualung, what monster releases, you know, there's not a weak cut on either album. They're perfect albums. They're solid gold. They're platinum. You know,
I know I've got Aqualung and maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 other Jethro Tulls. You know, my biggest failing is I don't have a record player in my office. I have a CD player, and I have a lot of CDs. Somebody gave me 160. They're right over here in the back. But and then everything I had on top of that, I got a huge collection of CDs. But you know, I was going to buy a record player at Christmas time, and the guy that sells me a lot of really good albums for about $15-16 a piece, huge selection. He's got this huge section at this antique store in Paso Robles, and he keeps it fresh. He's constantly, and I found so many great albums there. It's not even funny. And he had a record player, and he goes, "Hey," I go, "What do you want for that?" He goes, $75, and I'll give you the speakers too. And I said, "I'll take it." Well, I never picked it up, and somebody else bought it. No. And that was going to come in here. And,
brother.
It's not always easy to go out in the living room and there's a bunch of, you know, my wife and, you know, daughter and other people. And it's like they're watching a show or something. I want to listen to an album. It's like I wind up being like second fiddle. Did anybody have an answer to this? Wasn't Johnny Cash the first country star in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Frank's asking.
I don't know.
I don't know. But I'll tell you what. Johnny Cash was so popular. Do you guys remember his his TV show?
Yeah.
I remember I was out in North Las Vegas. Long story. My good buddy that got sent up to Spring Mountain, kids that got in trouble. He'd made all kinds of good friends while he was up there. And so we were out in North Las Vegas, which was kind of an interesting place. And one of his friends that he'd met up there, and they were all watching the Johnny Cash show. And Johnny Cash did this song where he named every single Indian tribe during that song, every American Indian tribe. And my friend Tommy looked at me and goes, "Did you see what he just did? He named every freaking Indian tribe." But I mean, that show, I mean, we were all into rock and roll, but everybody watched that Johnny Cash show. It was.
Well, here's the deal, Royce, with Johnny Cash, and you know my criticisms. And Bruce, I think you have a lot of similar feelings toward the Rock and Roll Hall of Shame. But, you know, Johnny Cash is one of those people. And I also covered this in my latest Hall of Shame video, shameless plugging. Sorry. But you know, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopher, you know, I call them the Four Horsemen because you shouldn't name a band after a song.
The Highway.
Yeah, the Highwaymen, it was, Highwaymen, it was a great song, but I always see them as the Four Horsemen, the truly greats of that subgenre, that in between, the twilight zone of music where country and rock blend together so tightly that I have no trouble with either one of them being nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is quite a thing for me, as you know.
No, I know you've had shows about that.
Yeah,
we've all had our own feelings about that.
But am I wrong about that? Doesn't you're talking specifically about Johnny Cash?
Well,
doesn't he seem rock and roll to you? Well, I mean, he does to me.
I think he could cross over pretty good,
Oh, he did a little crossover. Towards the end there, he did a cover tune of what's the name of the band? It's called I Hurt Myself.
Right.
I can't remember the name of the band that he did.
Oh, the cover. He really liked
Losing My Religion.
No.
Oh, 9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails, that's right.
9 Inch Nails. Yeah. Okay, I was thinking of the other.
Yeah, he had some good buddies in rock and he'd play with them and stuff.
And he's a touchstone for many people in rock, so he's almost spiritually he's linked to rock and roll for sure. He's one of those figures who has, even to this day, even among modern artists in rock, revere him. So he belongs. Right.
My earliest, I was born in 55, but my memories go very clearly, all the way to 2 years old. And I remember loving Johnny Cash tied with the Everly Brothers. Now, that to me was, I guess my country roots still tugging at me, but that was my beginning into rock and roll. The next big major shift, besides liking the teeny bopper stuff I'd hear on the radio, was the Beatles. I had to shift from that so now I was into pop rock, and it took me a while to shift from the Beatles to Led Zeppelin. I came late to that game. I bought my first Zeppelin, although I knew all their stuff. I went to parties, folks. You couldn't help but know every Led Zeppelin song. Yeah, but the first album I actually bought, which is going to be my number one album on my new list, by the way, was the first album. And that's, Houses of the Holy. I think it's their finest album, bar none.
Well, everybody loved the Beatles. I did a contest entry for Christian CGC vinyl a couple of nights ago, and it was called 365. You had to pick 3 different genres, show and talk about 3 albums of one genre, 6 of another, and 5 of another. And I went from metal, and I started my metal with Led Zeppelin 2, One of the Truth, but then I had some Black Sabbath and something else. But then I went from there to the British Invasion, So I had Stones. I started with Beatles, and I had Stones, Eric Burdon and the Animals, the Dave Clark 5, and a couple of others. Then I went from that 6. Dave Clark 5 were huge. I mean, they really rivaled the Beatles at that point.
They were great too.
They were reeling off the hits like there was no tomorrow.
Oh man, they made me glad all over.
I see what you did there.
Me too.
I'm just temporarily off screen, folks. Sorry about this.
Yeah. Michael Chavez is right. Cash and Elvis were rockabilly and morphed into country. But Elvis was, I agree. But I think they morphed into a lot of things. Elvis was, I don't know. I mean, you could almost say pop or something. What do you guys think? Because
I think he went crooner for the most part, with a slightly updated sound that hinted at pop rock for the most part. But when he was a young one, the man was the king of rock and roll, no doubt.
Right.
Right. But he left it real soon, folks.
But I tell you, when I lost my mind is when I heard Led Zeppelin 2. And that's when I mean, I was a huge Led Zeppelin 2 fan.
Well, A Whole Lot of Love was the cut off that. Like I said, I initially missed that album, but A Whole Lot of Love, I had the 45 immediately, you know.
Well, Led Zeppelin 1 and 2 both came out in '69, but Led Zeppelin 1 didn't have any singles. And a lot of people didn't discuss.
Well, it did have a single, but it didn't do well, and I forget where it was released. It may have even been released here. And I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was released as an afterthought. I even believe the album was out before it was released, and they were a live act at that point. The people who were buying their albums at that point were just as likely to have seen them or barely miss seeing them.
Well, is the Immigrant song on their first album?
Third.
No, that's their third album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm going to tell you something. A lot of my friends hated Led Zeppelin 3. They just almost. I mean, I went out and bought the 8-track, just like Michael Chavez is saying. It was all 8 tracks back then, And I went out and bought, as soon as another Led Zeppelin tape came out, I ran out and bought it. I mean,
right.
And the first I put it in and I took it out. I didn't listen to it for a few days, and then I put it back in, and then I listened to it a little bit, and it took me 4 or 5 listenings to become a fan of it.
You know what, Royce? That kind of happened to me too. When I heard it at a friend's house, I went, "Well, this isn't as good as the first 2." And it's interesting though, that particular album, it was the critics that hated it and the fans that bought it anyway. So you and I are in the minority as far as fans go.
What's interesting about that too, like we did an overrated or not segment on Led Zeppelin 4, and it's an interesting thing because if you live through the albums in real time, that's a different experience than as a second generation or third generation fan where the whole catalog exists and you experience it a little bit differently because it's already received knowledge. But that's
good point, Bruce.
And that's something that we addressed in that video is that for a lot of people, like for 3, if you already had jumped on board with 1 and 2, sonically that was such a shift that a lot of people were not on board with that. And especially Joe said, critics did not. I mean, critics in general were pretty harsh to Led Zeppelin all through the 70s.
Right.
But I know for that album in particular, it was very misunderstood at the time. And now we look at it as like what a brilliant move on their part to broaden the palette.
Now it's like 7 times platinum.
You're right, Bruce. And it was a necessary move for them too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think also a lot of people got on board with Led Zeppelin when Led Zeppelin 4 came out. So everybody loved Led Zeppelin 4. Now they go, well, what else does this band have? So they went backwards.
Yeah,
right.
Now they go back now they go back to 3. They go, well, this isn't as good as 4. And
right.
So I think that was part of it too.
And now what's interesting is now with the culture of reaction videos, you have people who don't know anything about it. They don't care about the critics receive knowledge about that or the historical perspective. They go into it cold, and it's more of a pure response to a lot of this music, which I find interesting in some of the better done response videos out there, like the reaction videos to some of these songs and albums.
Oh, yeah.
DJH has all of the 8 tracks except for Coda.
8-track.
Yeah.
8-track.
Yeah, all of the 8 tracks except for Coda.
Wow.
I still have an 8-track player for a car, still in the box, never been opened.
Oh, really?
It was years ago. I was at Radio Shack, and they had a table. It was a $1 table. Anything on the table was $1.
Okay.
I go, hey, there's an 8-track player. I bought it for $1, and I still have it. I just set it aside.
Bruce, I wanted to get back to your point. 3, where it lands, because it lands a lot lower for me than it used to. But I want it clearly understood that here's the thing. Everybody recognizes, whether they like it or not, that punk was necessary, right? And it could be ugly for some folks.
And a lot of
it wasn't. it wasn't just a catchy little ditty, you know, until the Police arrived and the Clash to a point, who kind of homogenized it a bit, right? And made it more palatable. And then they took off from there, right? But it was necessary, whether you like the Sex Pistols or not.
Right.
It was necessary for growth. And I think that Led Zeppelin 3, although there are some tracks on there that are freaking monsters, and that'll be the first thing that a lot of people will bring up to me is like, are you kidding? You're talking about this or this song or that song, right? But Dan brought up this point, and I wanted to tie this together, that a lot of folks came on, and even early Led Zeppelin fans came on with 4 being released. And that's where the solidity, the absolute solidity that was achieved in the Brown Bomber, Led Zeppelin 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the experimentality of 3 blend. They grew up that 3 sound and kept what they had already perfected on 2, and 4 presented itself, and it's probably their most perfect album. I'll give them that. It's been my #1 album, but it's not quite there anymore because of what I've done with Houses of the Holy. But it's still probably like the Beatles. You guys know my favorite Beatles album is Rubber Soul. Okay, #2 would be Revolver, the 2R albums. But I have to concede, and this doesn't mean I won't pick up and listen to this album a million times over those 2 albums. Abbey Road is probably their finest, most perfect album that the Beatles ever put out, you know, and it's often #1 on a lot of people's lists right there, you know.
Well, I just want to address one more thing with this too, because it ties into something that we brought up in this latest Doors video, is that what you want as a band is you want that pockets of fans appreciate different albums, because there's always, no matter what album exists out there, and people always ask us, well, why do you tackle these albums? It's obvious they're not overrated. Everyone thinks, no matter what album is you know, critically heralded or whatever, or has sold the most, there's always people that think it's overrated or they don't like it as much.
Right.
As a band, to me, that's a sign that you took chances, you grew. If you have people who like different pieces of your work, instead of it all being one album, like AC/DC, which we want that. In AC/DC's case, we want that, but we don't want that from every band. So I think that's the case of a real great band, that you have enough kind of coverage out there that people love different things that you did, and you took the risk, the artistic risk.
And an excellent example of what you're talking about, Bruce, on a pop rock level would be BTO. You know, every BTO song was BTO. But we wouldn't dream of them doing anything else. We wanted them in that pocket, you know, whereas the Guess Who went all over the place, and yet we have Bachman in both bands, you know. Amazing.
Well, I tell you guys, I mean, the chat has been absolutely on fire tonight. I mean, even look at Daddy Boggs, Susie Q by Creedence.
Yeah, good choice.
Like 2 notes, no more than 2 notes, right? I mean, back to that topic, you know, 2 notes.
How about Don't Fear the Reaper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this.
Did we mention Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana?
Oh yeah, good choice. Yeah.
No, there's just, I mean, Frank James. I haven't seen you in a while. I really appreciate you showing up tonight. And this guy knows his music right here. Frank does. He's always got some great comments out here. Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen, even through the record club, still released other titles after he. Okay, yeah. Frank's got a lot of great comments. I mean, everybody does. Punk was a very interesting era in music back then. It was very interesting. I had a hard time. I have to be honest. I had a hard time warming up to the punk music, and I've listened to a number of songs. Well, you know, everybody knew Johnny Rotten and, you know, that group. But I mean, the Ramones, for example, we were on a show where the Ramones were kind of a pretty popular topic. Dad and I were there, and Caitlin and Daddy Boggs was there. And I tell you what, I thought, well, maybe I was missing something. So I went and listened to, even though some of the songs were only like 2 minutes longer or shorter, I couldn't hardly get through one. I just, for some reason, it just wasn't working for me, you know. And I have heard
in the right mood, they're good in the right mood,
Yeah.
but they're not like the first thing I'll put on.
For me, it was the post-punk bands like the Police, early U2,
Yes.
who picked up the thread, but there was more musicality with
Yeah.
them.
Right. Well, and I've said this a million times on my channel. It's always, guys, it's always in the freaking song. All right? It gets down to the song. What are these people offering us, you know, as artists? And the hook, Royce, you started that whole idea off tonight. Hooks can be with drums. They can be with the bass guitar. They can be within the song or the keyboards, as we've demonstrated tonight. But
Absolutely.
the hook and the melody and the least amount of croak vocals, you know, that stuff is okay with me. And song structure. And then finally, as the great George Martin said, orchestrational. Not just orchestrational, but orchestrational thinking. Okay? Right. You don't bring in an orchestra. You don't have to have a keyboard bringing in fake orchestras. But how do you place the two guitarists and their riffs together? Does that orchestrate the song? George Harrison, again, Royce, was a master at that.
That's right.
He was a master at that.
Yeah.
And people don't give him enough credit.
No, he was a master. Yeah. My younger brother finally made it. He's
Richie.
Satisfaction. How you doing, Richie? Yeah, the
we miss you, Richie. Come on. Papa says he's sorry.
The chat's been on fire tonight. You know, Richie's talking about Day Tripper. You know who taught me how to play Day Tripper? I was about I don't know, 13 years old or something, and I just got a little electric guitar. Me and Richie both got them. Jimmy Anderson and Miles Shannon owned them, and they fooled around with them for a while, didn't want them anymore. And you and I, our dad bought us their guitars and amps, little tiny amps. Not very good guitars, but they were still fun. And I was standing out in the front yard one day, and I heard Day Tripper playing. And I had to follow that sound, you know. I mean, it was the first time I'd ever heard anybody playing it on an electric guitar. And I walked in, Richie, I walked into the Simmons' backyard, you know, Johnny Simmons. And there was his older brother, Billy, just got back from Vietnam, and him and a buddy were sitting there with electric guitars. They taught me how to play Day Tripper. I mean, you know, anyway.
Lucky you. You know how I learned? I just had learned, you know, the Bach system that you learn for lead guitar based on the minor pentatonic scale.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, the first one you learn is an E, you know, and so it was just there, and I learned to pick the note, you know, gong, 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 you know, that way, turn it, you know, get the 45, slow it down, you know, and then transpose the key. It was hard work. It was hard work. I wish somebody had known it.
Yeah, I learned it on bass, so.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool on bass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great riff.
Oh yeah.
A great riff. It sounds so good. You know, when you hear it coming from behind a house, five houses down the street blasting, it's like, oh my God, it was like I was being beckoned, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it's a great song, what it's all about and what John was writing about and what was happening at the time. And just the fact that they got the name Tripper in a title and it didn't get censored. Wow. Wow. Because that was you know, everybody talks about, hey man, you're using trigger words on me now. Grow up, first of all. Grow up. But anyway, you know, talk about a trigger word back in the day, man. You know, the FBI was looking into trigger words.
You know, that must be a thing on the internet too with these trigger words. There's a couple of couple of videos that I watch, and I don't know what to happen, but every time they say a word like drug, it's automatically muted out. If they say sexual assault, sex is muted out. And half the time I don't know what the hell these people are talking about. Every other word's muted out. And I'm going, well, that's useless, you know?
Well, it's, you know, the vernacular police are out in form. They've always been there, but it's at this time period we see they're starting to get a little power, and it'll swing back to the middle somewhere. It's just, you know, the needle. To me, the needle, if it hovers slightly to the left or slightly to the right, I'm not too unhappy, because, you know, I have slightly left feelings and slightly right feelings depending on the issue, and
so I think that's everybody, you know. I mean,
there's the extreme left and the extreme right.
No, there are,
and there are millions of them. There are millions of them. I'm just not one of them, you know.
Where it's getting scary is with the books now too, because I don't know if you heard about, like, with the Ian Fleming books, like now we have what's called sensitivity readers, and so they're going back and now they're sort of changing the language of the books and editing those from the original intention. So that's where we're starting to get in a little bit of ropey territory, you know. But
hey, you want to listen. We're talking all about this now. I encourage everybody to go out and watch pick any episode of Gilligan's Island and see if that freaking show would get okayed today. It is so out of taste to the alt-left and the alt-right. I mean, well, probably not the alt-right, but I mean, you know, there is so much. How about Gilligan Gets a Slave? And the whole episode is based on the other castaways trying to sneak away his slave, you know. And of course, you know, the thing is we're so sensitive now. And no, that makes me feel threatened. And that reminds me of, you know, it's like you can't get a copy of Song of the South because we're apologizing. See, people don't get. The human race evolves, people. Evolution takes time. And guess what? My generation, we did a lot of good things and we made our fair share of mistakes. And to any millennialists out there who are watching, I got news for you, folks. You're making the same damn mistakes in your own time period. And often all we get is, okay, boomer. You know what? Get off my freaking lawn.
Yeah, they say boomer like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I'll boomer this. You know, I mean, what the hell? You know, I mean, no, people got to quit being so sensitive.
All right.
Yeah, here's how my generation
You're
thinks.
going to smoke dope and have a good time.
What the hell is that?
Hey, Proghat. My buddy,
you've been invaded, Royce.
What's that?
Yeah, is everybody else hearing that? Okay, all right.
I don't know.
Ooh.
I got a little sound thing here I'm playing with.
Oh, okay.
Now this may trigger somebody.
He's pulling his cock out. He's pulling his cock out.
This has been a great show, guys. I want to throw a couple of more names out or songs out.
I don't want to come between you, or do I? I don't want to come between you, or do I?
How about Long Cool Woman by the Hollies?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's one or two notes. Then we've got, of course, China Grove by the Doobie Brothers. How about Chicago, 25 or 6-4?
6-4 on my list.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't need more than a couple of toots on the horn for that one.
God bless Terry Cap.
And here's another real favorite of mine, Layla, Derek and the Dominoes.
That was on my list as well. Yeah, good song.
I love that song.
Yep.
Let's see, what else have I got here? You Give Love a Bad Name, Bon Jovi. I actually like that song. Satisfaction, the Rolling Stones, that's been brought up. How about Steely Dan, Reeling in the Years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The percussive intro to that's excellent. Or how about the at the beginning of Ricky, Don't Lose That Number? You're into that song before it starts.
Yeah. Okay, we got Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. Born to Be Wild, Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Well, was that a big hit? So was Magic Carpet Ride,
Yep.
Back in the day when I don't know, I was 17 years old or something.
Those two songs sold more leather jackets at fairgrounds than any other two songs. I'll tell you.
Well, you know what? The Rolling Stones, Start Me Up. That's probably a two-noter, to be able to guess that song.
Yeah.
Actually, three notes.
Yeah. 3 notes is what I hear. Yeah.
Okay. The Eagles, Take It Easy. The Doors, Light My Fire. Are you going to tell us a Doors story there, Bruce?
No, the whole thing is like recently we did LA Woman as part of our Overrated or Not series.
LA Woman, yeah.
So when we cover in the video, we covered the trajectory of what led to this and the past of the Doors. So a lot of interesting stuff in there. So I thought
that Ron had a really great point in that video when he was talking about how the band would morph to in one set of songs versus them morphing into Jim's artistic background group. I thought that was very astute of it. Spot on point.
Yeah.
Hey Bruce, I want to ask you this: what is your opinion on the album that the Doors put out after Jim passed? They put out one album.
Oh, The Other Voices.
Yeah, the album didn't do too well. They wanted to continue the Doors without Jim, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I think they did a couple albums, and then later on they went and did the one, obviously, American Prayer, with actually using his spoken word stuff. But
How about Nirvana?
Sounds like an endless river of an album, Bruce.
Yeah, good point.
Right.
For What It's Worth, Buffalo Springfield. For What It's Worth. Okay. Jump. Centerfold, Jay Giles Band. But what's really funny is that I was reading off a list that I came across, and down below they said these are the ones that didn't make the cut, and this kind of blew my mind. And I'll read a couple of those. Whole Lot of Love, Led Zeppelin, didn't make the cut.
Wrong.
Michael Jackson's 1982, Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. That was a big hit. Whether you liked it or
Billie
not.
Jean to me is one of the greatest singles ever recorded in popular music ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
I'm talking about the mix. I'm talking about the song structure, the melody, the storyline, the ambiguity of it all, and the total track. It's right up there with the Beatles' double-A side, Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields to me. It's
Michael, I was I liked it too, and I liked the Thriller album and all the videos they made for it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was really late to the game for that because I was listening to Led Zeppelin when Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 were singing 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. I was listening to Led Zeppelin, the Doors, you know what I'm saying? The Cream, and all these great bands. And it was like, so I was at arm's distance from Michael Jackson because of the Jackson 5. And who were their rivals? There was the
Osmonds.
Yeah. You know what? And I mean, their music was always playing, and we all heard it, whether we liked it or not. But I was always listening to heavier stuff. Then all of a sudden, Michael Jackson, like you said, with Beat It, and I said Thriller, he started. I started definitely paying attention to that.
I started paying attention to any Jackson with Off the Wall. I couldn't stand the Jackson 5. You have to understand, ABC comes out and it's battling Long Winding Road, Get Back, Hey, Let It Be, and it's sailing up the charts. The Beatles are breaking up, and we've got a 10-year-old singing to. I hated it. I was 15, so I was age biased. Right. First of all, he's too young for me.
Yeah.
So that was my bias. And then Off the Wall came out, I heard a couple of cuts off that. I go, hey, this young man's got something to offer, you know.
No,
And
no,
I
hear
became
told
a
you.
Jackson fan from that point on.
Yeah, that's the album that I think really, if you were paying attention, that's the one that let
Yep.
you know what was coming with Thriller down the line. And then
Yeah.
now, as adults, you go back and you look at that early Jackson 5 footage, and it's unbelievable. Like, you know, how brilliant a talent he was at that young age. Unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's true. You know, you feel a little guilty later in life, but
And Jermaine always got the short end. I think that, you know, if there had been no Michael, they would have been successful on some level with Jermaine heading the whole damn band. He's a great bass player. He should, you know, great musician. And I think he's the one, because he was such a great musician, that he's always found, you know, it hard to play second fiddle to Michael. I don't know. What do you think, Bruce? Because you're maybe more into the Jackson 5 than I am, but I always thought he was a great bassist, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. And
yeah, he definitely got overshadowed by Michael.
Oh yeah, they all did, but
they all did, yeah.
Yeah.
Pipeline, there you go, Rich. I love that song.
Oh yeah, Pipeline, yeah, great song.
Yeah, no, that's a great song. I love that song. Angela, gotta go. Okay, Angela. Well, thank you so much for showing up. We really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody in the chat. I mean, Frank, I haven't seen Frank James in a while. He's always full of great comments. And Trish just showed up. You classic rock guy. Hey, Royce. Hi, Royce. That's great. Crazy Horses, Michael Chavez. DJ H Record Hound. Man, you guys are just doing amazing with your comments.
I love that comment.
The only time I listened to the Jacksons or the Osmonds was on the Ed Sullivan Show on Saturday nights.
You know, another good song you can detect really quick is Van Halen, "Running with the Devil."
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
that's right, huh?
Yeah. Well, you know, Dan, you brought up ZZ Top earlier. I could think of 2 or 3 songs besides the one you brought up that you could recognize just as quickly.
That's true.
All hail Billy Gibbons. You know, I mean, they're fabulous. And talk about a riff master. He's one too.
Have you guys heard Anthrax do a cover of Pipeline? I've heard about it, but I haven't heard it. I'm gonna have to listen to that on YouTube tomorrow. That sounds pretty cool. Thanks, DJ H. Oh, you're quite welcome, Frank. Really appreciate you being here. Santana, Black Magic Woman. Yeah.
Yes.
1 to 2, 1 to 2 notes, right?
Yep. Just on Greg Rowley's keyboard.
Those long sustaining notes, even the one note, I think would be enough with Black Magic Woman.
Well, it's Greg Rowley that's on keyboards and singing on that song, right? Before he joined Journey, maybe. Isn't he with his keyboard? You know it before you even hear Santana's stinging guitar. Well, you know that song.
Black Magic Woman, one note is kind of cheating because I think it's a hammer-on pull-off that sustains for like ever.
Yes. Written by Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac, people.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep, he wrote that song. That's a Fleetwood Mac song.
Gotcha. Awesome. Main Street. Great guitar intro. Yeah. Thank you, Prog Hat. Hot for Teacher, Motorcycle Drum.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Oh, yeah. Right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. The drums.
The double bass drum.
Yeah.
Man, like I said, the chat has been totally on fire.
It's a good topic.
Mississippi Queen.
That was another one I meant to bring up too. Yeah, Mountain.
Okay, there's some more here that caught me off guard a little bit when they said these guys didn't make the cut. I mentioned Led Zeppelin already, and Michael Jackson with Billie Jean, Maggie Made by Rod Stewart, Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses. Now I like that riff, Sweet Child of Mine. I know, Michael. Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. Smoke on.
I'm sorry, Royce.
No big deal. But I think that's a cool.
That man's voice should have been outlawed long ago.
No, but this is guitar playing. It's not his voice.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Beatles, Ticket to Ride. That's a cool song.
Well, yeah.
The Doors, Touch Me, The Doors. Let's see.
No, you're talking about Axl Rose. You know, there's a local band here in Dallas. They're an AC/DC tribute band. I've talked about them before. Back in Black.
Yeah.
The lead singer of that band is so good. He can sound like Bon Scott. He can sound like Brian Johnson. The guy is fabulous, and he has the moves, everything. Look, you think you're watching. It's just like watching AC/DC in concert. One of the best. Well, when Brian Johnson was having issues with his hearing, he was going to step aside for a while. They needed another singer. Well, they brought the singer from Back in Black to Atlanta, and he jammed with AC/DC, you know, and they loved it. They thought he was great.
Wow.
2 days later, they get a phone call. No, they went with Axl Rose. Axl Rose sounds nothing like Bon Scott or Brian Johnson.
He's got the name.
He's got the
name value.
Well, same thing with Pantera. You know, there's a lot. I know a lot of guys that can play almost as well as Dimebag, or the same close. Nobody can play like Dimebag.
Close enough, though.
You know. So they bring in Zakk Wylde. I mean, I love Zakk Wylde and all that, but his style is not even close.
No, it's not even close.
They could have brought somebody in that could have played note for note like Dimebag, but they didn't have the name draw. You know, they just and Zakk would draw the people in more money.
Yeah, no, he'll draw the people in. You saw that little video I sent over to you, didn't you? Where I saw the tribute to Hendrix concert and Zakk Wylde was playing.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize he was on that until I started. You know, it was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, that concert, tribute to Hendrix. I saw it at the Arlington Theater in Santa Barbara, as well as Avila Beach Blues Festival. They had it there. And actually, a friend of mine, Bruce, he puts on the Avila Beach Blues Festival every year. And it's a great, George Thorogood and Destroyers, Buddy Guy, all kinds of just great acts all the time. And anyway, so that tribute to Hendrix came in, and what it was they'd put together like some of the greatest guitar players of our time, and they were all like, what was it, Surfing with the Aliens?
Joe
Satriani, and
I
mean, all these great guys. One of my funnest stories was, so all these great guitarists came out and played Hendrix songs. Then they started coming out in pairs and stuff. But one of the funnest ones for me was when I was at the Santa Barbara show. Ernie Isley, the son of one of the Isley brothers, came out and he goes, Jimi Hendrix used to live with me when I was a little kid. He taught me how to play the guitar. He was in my dad's band, the Isley Brothers. And Hendrix lived for 4 or 5 years with one of the Isley Brothers at their home and played in their band. And
well, the Isley Brothers guitarist, didn't they used to call him Little Hendrix?
I'm not really sure about that. You know,
I thought I seemed to remember that, but anyway.
Yeah, pretty long career playing with all these soul bands and stuff. You know, he played with everybody. He played with Little Richard. He played with Ike Turner from Ike and Tina Turner. He played with, like I said, the Isley Brothers. Most of them fired him for one thing or another. Ike Turner fired him. Dan's heard me tell this story too many times. Ike Turner was being interviewed, and they go, "You fired Jimi Hendrix? Why did you fire Jimi Hendrix?" He goes, well, he had all those pedals. He had the wah pedal, and he had this pedal, and he had this pedal and that pedal. And he goes, he spent so much time playing the pedal, messing around with those pedals, he never got to play the guitar. So I fired him.
Now leave me alone, because I gotta go beat Tina.
Yeah,
I can just hear it.
He's lucky he got fired instead of bitch slapped.
Then he went on to say that when I started hearing about this Jimi Hendrix rock guard, I didn't know the same Jimi Hendrix. I love that.
I think a few band leaders were surprised.
If you want to see something really funny, you can do a search for that. You know, Ike Turner firing Jimi Hendrix, and you can watch that video. It's really funny. But the other one that I just fall out of my chair every time I watch is Jimi Hendrix standing behind Shotgun. Let's see, what was the name of that band? It was they had the famous song Shotgun. It was Junior Walker and the All Stars.
Yeah.
Junior
Okay.
Walker and the All Stars. And the two front guys are out there dancing all crazy, playing that song Shotgun. And they're pumping shotguns and shooting them and they're dancing like you've never seen before. And in the back is the instrumental section. And here's Jimi Hendrix in a suit and tie with all the horn section, and they're rocking back and forth in cadence, And Hendrix was so bored with that, he's about to lose his mind. He'd flip his fingering hand over and start playing the guitar like this, and then come back.
He was known to do that, and was fired several times because he wouldn't settle down and be the background. That's part of the history, baby.
Yeah.
Right. ELO, don't bring me down.
The man was coming out. Nobody was going to stop him. He was going to be either in your face or a disgrace. He was going to the top or he was going nowhere,
Right.
I mean, didn't he play for Little Richard's band?
Yeah.
And Little Richard fired him for the same damn thing.
Little Richard fired him too, yeah.
Yeah.
He got fired by a lot of people.
Yep.
Gary Spring out in the chat saying, he says one band he really liked was Canned Heat. Canned Heat was my very first concert.
Oh, yeah.
Canned Heat and Quicksilver Messenger Service.
Ooh,
I think I saw them both too at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I know I saw Canned Heat. I loved Canned Heat. That was
another hit.
Actually, I saw him twice. I saw Canned Heat with Dave Mason as well once. If anybody remembers who Dave Mason is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's just you and me, and we just disagree.
Yeah.
I love David
Mason. Michael Nolan, meet Michael Chavez and read his comment.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Chavez. You're absolutely right. If a cat could not carry a note.
Michael thinks that's an insult to cats.
Now I know two Michaels that are big.
Got me there, Bruce. Man, anybody who knows me from back anywhere, I'm not a fan. Matter of fact, I did a whole video. It's one of my big videos that well over 100,000 views on it. And I told in the video, I'm telling everybody, my wife can't stand Rod Stewart because, she bases her whole listening history with him on Do You Think I'm Sexy and Beyond, right? And she just hears a cat, nails scratching against a blackboard. And that's the thing. See, my problem with Axl Rose isn't his range. I understand he's got a great range.
Yeah.
It's not even his presence or his look. He looks rock and roll, okay? Right. Little dandyish for me, but well within what I've accepted before. It's his choice of notes within that range, and it's like he's fluctuating, and he can't control the treble when he hits the higher notes, and it sounds like whine to me. All right, and I just I just want to pull my hair out when I hear his voice.
I hear it. You know what? I didn't mind it so much. Like I told you, I went to a recording of the video November Rain at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles, not even knowing who was going to be playing. They advertised it up here because they didn't want it to be mobbed down there. And just for the hell of it, we were told we had to wear tuxedos. So me and this guy working for me rented tuxes and ran down there. We sat through, I think, 7 takes. And I mean, that's a long song. No. And in between each take, Axl and Slash would sit on the stage and sign autographs and stuff. And I remember being like probably the oldest guy in there in my 40s, right? And as I got close to the stage and girls were getting their breasts autographed and things like that, I go, what am I doing here? And I just turned around and went back to my seat.
But he did that, Bruce, only so he could go get his pen.
Yeah, right. But like I told you guys before, my kids were huge Guns N' Roses fans, huge. And, they always had the MTV videos going of Guns N' Roses and stuff.
Well, and I guess it might be a bit generational with me, although when they were at their most fab, I loved Alice in Chains. I loved Stone Temple Pilots. I loved Nirvana.
Yes.
So it wasn't like I was out of sync with all of the music, but I felt like by the time Guns N' Roses came along, the hair band thingy had already been done, and matter of fact, it was interesting because the last hair band to me and the first grunge band is Alice in Chains. Look at their first album, Man in a Box, right?
Yeah.
Look at how they're all dressed. They all got whipping long hair. And the very next album, they make physical changes. They even go to more acoustic, interesting tones. Now, does that take away that first album? No, that's one of the best albums in rock. The very first Alice and Man in a Box. Matter of fact, there's one you're listening to right away too.
Right.
Okay.
And,
but
their Unplugged appearance is still one of the best.
Oh yeah.
You can find out there.
You're absolutely right, Bruce. Yes. So I guess it was, I don't know, because I when I have deigned to listen to Guns N' Roses, I love Slash. I think Slash is a fine guitar player.
Yeah.
I really like his tone. I think he's a great guitar player. I think he's underrated,
I think he is too.
Yeah.
I've never seen Guns N' Roses, but I've seen Slash. For a while, Slash had a band called Slash's Snake Pit.
Yes, that's right.
So I got.
Oh, you saw them?
Oh yeah, I saw them. Yeah, I actually got to hang out with them after the show. I got pictures of them, and so that's pretty cool.
Wow.
I saw Velvet Revolver, but not Slash's Snake Pit.
Well, it's interesting. My at the time he must have been about 14. My 14-year-old nephew was the first to turn me on to the Revolver band, and it was like, spot on. I liked them.
Oh yeah.
But they just didn't hang, did they?
No, they didn't.
Well, that's like with Stone Temple Pilots. I met those guys in '92 when they first left California, first tour out of California.
Right.
And nobody really knew who they were, but I heard them on the radio, so I went down and checked them out. And they exploded after that. I mean, Stone Temple Pilots was huge. And then once they kind of broke up, and then Scott Weiland went over to Velvet Revolver. Right. Stone Temple Pilots got on hiatus for a while. And here in the last few years they've come back, but they haven't quite made it back where they were.
Well,
without
with
Scott Weiland,
with his vocals and his input, they were the closest band to get to where the Doors were. To me, all of a sudden, he would sound rather croonish on some of their songs. And out of the grunge bands, I would say they were the answer to the Doors within grunge. And I loved them for it.
And they became better the more they became themselves too, because I don't know if you remember, but early on they were sort of saddled with like kind of pseudo Pearl Jam and kind of a big Pearl Jam thing. And with subsequent albums, I think they kind of found more and more their own voice. And that's, I think, to me, where they became more interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
Well, I think with grunge post Nirvana, you've got Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. You've got, who did you just mention, Bruce? Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And you've got the Smashing Pumpkins. And they're like the four squares or the four corners within this box that kind of established the various subgenres. That
they
were the fringes.
Soundgarden. I always include Soundgarden in that.
That'd be a good choice too. I'll have to give some recent listenings to Soundgarden. That's a good idea.
Their stuff is probably not as mainstream, but if you look at the foundation and like really early grunge and who was really on board early in that sound, they were foundational in that.
Good point.
And to this day, Cornell, no one can top Cornell as a vocalist among modern.
No, I'm a fan. I didn't think of them, but that's a good point.
Yeah, no, it is. They were great. Cornell, sadly died a couple of years ago. But
phenomenal talent. I mean, even his solo stuff is brilliant.
Well, two nights ago,
I can't leave Nirvana out of this. I love Nirvana.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Two nights ago, I went to a thing called Grunge Fest, and there were 3 tribute bands, and one of them was Man in the Box, Alice in Chains tribute. They're pretty good. Then there was the Foo Fighters for the Foo Fighters. They're pretty good. But the best one of the night was the Chris Cornell Experience. That guy even looks like Chris Cornell.
Wow.
Downslagging. And I've got a couple of videos I posted up on my Facebook page that shows how good they are. I mean, I was blown away. My son, who's 35, he was blown away by them.
Wow.
But Dan, don't you guys think about this? And please disagree with me. I mean it. That was the last time, with grunge, that was the last time rock and roll was really exciting on a major playing field.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah. Exactly.
That was the last gasp, I think, for real rock.
I mean, I'm not saying there's not great rock out there. Matter of fact, I've done a couple of videos on that too. A couple of young bands I really like hearing right now. But again, they sound just as fresh as those bands to my ears. All right, I really like them. But on top, I'm saying they don't have the field like these bands have. They can't take the field because the field is full of Rihannas.
Yeah.
Okay. And contest winners and Queen, who should retire with their contest winner vocalist. But you know what I mean? Let's dial up a song. We'll get what's his name, who has written 10 of the last 20 top 10 songs. Right.
It's a producer's medium now as far as mainstream pop, whereas like you bring up the grunge era, that was the last time that I think rock mattered that much to youth culture as it did in the 80s, 70s, 60s. Yeah. I think beyond that, we lost that thread. And there were a lot of factors, streaming.
And as a result, I think one of the smartest things that rock bands could do, at least on an interim basis, is get back, and you talked about the Ramones, get back to the short subject matter song. Hit them with 6 songs aside worth of material. Because guess what? For the first time since our generation, the boomer generation, you have an audience with an attention deficit disorder, just like us, right? Right? Yeah. You got to get them in the next, you've got 3 minutes on the outside, all right? And you got to catch them in the first 5 seconds, all right? And if you've got something there and movements and structure changes that are interesting, and you write pieces that will not let your listeners off the hook, rock has a chance still to make a comeback. But
rock will continue. I'm a firm believer that rock will continue to reinvent itself. And I really agree that the last great genre was the we were just talking about it.
Alternative grunge.
Right.
Yeah, grunge. Yeah, grunge.
Right.
I mean, and I love that genre. I liked almost every single band,
Yeah, me too, Royce. But here's the deal. Rock and roll is in danger of becoming jazz. Jazz has continued to reinvent itself. It's still vital. It's still happening. There's lots of great stuff happening in that genre. But there was a time in the 40s that jazz was numero uno, just like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and arguably well into the 90s, rock ruled. And I think rock is in a perilous condition right now. First of all, it's no longer just having the most of the songs in a pop field right now. As a matter of fact, to actually hear a rock song in the top 10s rather unheard of these days.
Yeah, it's not like it was when the Stones were reeling off albums and things like that.
Yeah,
a lot of it depends on airplay too. And one of the problems is these radio stations, and of course the internet has caused a problem with that. And here locally in Dallas, we got all these bands in Dallas. All the venues are packed every weekend with these bands. We don't have any rock stations here in Dallas. None. Yeah. We got one classic rock station. Other than that, it's nothing. So
and here's the thing, and this gets into I've got a whole thesis built on this, but in a nutshell, the rock artist, the creative artist, whether rock, pop, whatever genre, needs to get more in touch with some of the technological changes. Okay. I think it's going to be the first artist that comes up as a true multimedia artists that will be the big artists in the world. And by that, I mean, when they make a release, you not only buy what would traditionally be known as the album, but they also will release lyrics to poetry they've written, prints of their art that they've written, right? And this will come as a package. It will not be just one simple thing, because you got to catch them with a story. It's got to be like a freaking book.
Immersive.
Okay? Immersive. Bingo, Bruce. That's it. You've got to be able to immerse your audience. And why? Well, what's immersing the audiences today is, guys, video games.
Yeah.
And video game music is hot right now.
No,
somebody needs
yeah.
Some young genius of rock, preferably, will finally hit this. They will finally hit it. Its time has come, and long come.
Talk about one of the things too I've noticed. One of the big things is you don't talk about immersive, is the 3D stuff. You know, the metaverse, I guess is what they call it, the metaverse.
Yeah,
and excellent point.
And the Foo Fighters are on top of that. Foo Fighters have got a bunch of videos out that you can watch through here. It's like you're standing in front of Dave Grohl. I mean, it is pretty cool. But the problem is not everybody has those sets yet, you know.
Right.
So
yeah, and I think of the Foo Fighters as one of the new bands. You know, they've been around for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
well, they're one of the last hope bands that somehow eked out an existence through this desert of time. You know, I mean, they've been quite successful.
No, I hear you. I'm laughing because it's great.
Yeah, yeah. There were bands that came up, and you thought, okay, like I thought a great pop rock band that could have hinged on to just a kick-ass rock band, because that's what they were, was Los Lonely Boys. What happened to them? They came out around the beginning of the 2000s.
I don't know.
Oh, and they even had a drummer named Ringo. What else could you ask for? You know, three brothers, three Mexican brothers. You know, some of the hottest guitar playing you've ever heard. Their bassist, phenomenal, and their drummer, absolutely kick-ass killer. And all three of them could sing. Wow. Amazing band. And they put out a couple of good albums, and then they kind of became too popish or something. I lost interest because they didn't maintain that hard edge rock sound they had playing at fairgrounds that got them noticed to begin with. They made their way through fairground performances, guys. Gotcha. And they were hot, you know? Wow.
Yeah, they were.
But these kinds of bands have come and gone. You know, all these bands with the who is it, Green Day and all those, you know, where they're gee, mama wants me to do this. Yeah, you know, it's all mom pop stuff, you know. It kind of reminded me of that song, The Way. Dun 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 dun. Remember that song? I forget what band that was. Late 90s. But you know, it's kind of like sophomoric humor based, cutesy like lyrics with a lot of nice melodies and decent playing, but they came and went. You know, I'm thinking, what was that goof ass band that was in the first Scooby-Doo movie?
I'm not sure.
Oh my God. And they had, you know, they had that kind of jangle sound, and they were hot for a second, more pop than rock. But the thing is all these bands had about a 3-year layover. A 3-year layover. That's it. And nobody just came out as the monster to rule the 2000s or the 2000 teens, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, very few from that era elevated to stadium status.
What's that, Bruce?
I said, like, very few of that era ever elevated to stadium status.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the Maroon 5s. You've got the Trains. You have what was that? Me and Mrs. Jones, Counting Crows.
Yeah.
And I loved some of their stuff. I loved Train. I wasn't that big of a fan of Maroon 5, but
I was going to say the same thing. I really liked a lot of Train songs.
Yeah.
He's a great singer. They've got some
he is, but they became more as they went, and same thing with Counting Crows, I mean, what a brilliant first album, but nobody seems to be able to put three brilliant albums together these days, and we're used to bands that put 10 to 13 to 14, 15, 20 classic albums together, and each paced at one a year, sometimes twice a year. Led Zeppelin, 2 albums in the first year. Creedence Clearwater, 2 albums in the first year.
The Doors.
Amen. Right there. See what I see? Yeah. This is what we're used to, young'uns. Yeah. This is the talent we're used to, and it's missing.
Well, one of the things is just nobody doing that. Nobody.
Right.
I mean, I don't. I'm not like a fan of Beyonce. And Taylor Swift, Harry Styles. I mean, I respect like Harry Styles doing 25 residencies in one place and selling them out every freaking night. I mean, how do you not at least respect that? But it's not my style of music.
Easy, Royce. It's so easy. Watch this. Harry Styles. See? It's that easy.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you one of his songs. I don't listen.
Me neither. Nor do I care to know.
It's not my style,
One of the things that's hurt the music industry as well. Back in our day, in the 70s, in the 80s, talk about stadium concerts. Well, there were stadium concerts everywhere. And that maybe last 1, 2, 3 days. And you got all these bands that would get noticed from these stadium tours.
Well, you had local stadiums competing against local stadiums. You had 3 major rock shows in the same area.
But the thing that really killed it all is the insurance. The insurance to cover an event like that now is like $1 million a day. Nobody can afford it. So no more stadium tours. I mean, nobody can afford it because they can name the insurance company can name their price.
Yeah, so I know. We can thank the Who for that, Dan.
Right there, you could wipe out a whole lot of bands from getting any type of notice at all.
You guys need to read this. The Daddy Boggs. This is funny.
The Hinges. Okay.
Bravo.
Hey, you know what? Daddy Bog has been lighting up Rachel's channel with some of the wittiest damn stuff I've read lately, Royce. I mean, this guy, Daddy Bog's one of those guys that comes to life. He's one of those those people you want in your freaking gallery. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He
is so witty. Oh, he's cool. I love him.
Him and I and Dan all go back a long ways together.
Oh yeah. He's actually surprised Rachel a few times. She's even made a statement around. Oh, matter of fact, what was it? Rob on the channel. The Wax. He was surprised. He was going, "Oh, wait a minute," and then he started reading some derogatory remarks, which he's so brilliant at. But anyway,
Daddy Bog was on Rachel's show promoting one of my T-shirts. So that's
cool. I was on Rachel's show the other morning, and I came on as a guest, and I did a Godfather impersonation, and I used the Wax in it. I said, let me see if I can remember how I did that. Okay. When have I ever refused to share my cannolis? When have I ever refused? Just this one time. I believed then and I believe now that the Wax would eat them all.
Doesn't sound a bit like Cagney. Little Beatle trivia for you.
Yeah. The Wax sure likes to get things stirred up, though, doesn't he?
Oh yes, he's a shit disturber. He is. Matter of fact, when he was folding those T-shirts, Dan, Rob was in turn giving him a hard time, going, "Now what next we'll be having to watch him. He's going to have to refold them all because he was showing them, put them off to the side."
Right. Oh yeah, that's right.
Michael Chavez brought up Bruno Mars and Silk Sonic. I like those guys. I think they're really talented.
Yeah, everybody needs to get out of Vegas, Michael. That's the hellhole to rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And this new dome and everything.
Right.
Oh man,
right.
Talk about Hollywood glitz crapola. Shame on you two. And then you two billing themselves as you two without Larry Mullins Jr., who created the fucking, excuse my language, band, right? And they're performing the one album that is known for their freaking drummer, and they're playing that live without him.
Without him.
More Bono hijinks, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
It's a shame too, because I was really looking forward to them doing the anniversary of Octung, because just like they did with Joshua, once they did the anniversary of Joshua, I'm like, they got to get around to, because with all the updated technology, it just lends itself to being reinterpreted again.
Yes.
You know, on a big scale. But like you said, without Larry, it's especially jarring because, you know, obviously they can't help it. You know, they haven't really disclosed what's going on with him fully, but everything they've done, it's always been as a unit. You know, one of the few bands to actually pull that off. It's a miracle. And to not have
Bruce.
for this hurts.
Yes, Bruce, there are certain bands, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, right? You've got Jimmy, Robert, John, and John, or Bonzo, right? There are certain, you've got Copeland, Summers, Sting. You don't mess with these bands. They're known by all members, and the second one's gone, and U2, up until now, was one of them. And to me, this is not U2. And look what the prices will be to go watch, I don't know, them as 50-foot old pruning up giants. I don't know.
Hey, I got another sound bite here. See if you can guess this one.
Okay.
I don't know, man. My memory is I don't know. It's just no thoroughgood, man. I can't figure it out. George.
I love that song. George Thorogood just played at our Avila Beach Blues Festival. It not just played; it's been 6 or 7 months, and he was on my bucket list, and I didn't go. I don't know where I was, but I might even have been out of town. But I'm still kicking myself. I had Santana was in town, George Thorogood was in town. Ringo's coming again. Ringo and his all-star band are coming in a few months to the Vina Robles Amphitheater, which is this nice small venue. No band.
You know, I never really got into Ringo's all-star band and blah, blah, blah. But I've been watching some videos of past incarnations of that band. And you know what? Live, I think it'd be a very interesting show because it's not all about Ringo. It's about who's in the band at what time. Right. And depending, of course, you know, it would depend who's there. But they've put out some very interesting shows.
Well, you know, Ringo is probably the only Beatles I'll ever be able to afford to see live.
You know what's amazing though with the Ringo shows, because I think years ago they did a VH1 Storytellers that he, you know, was the focal point of, and it just got me thinking, like, this is how amazing the Beatles were, that their drummer can actually pull off a show that is very entertaining. I'm
telling you, and Ringo is entertaining. He's a character.
And for the most part, he isn't a writer. I mean, he dabbles in it, but for the most part,
he does more than dabble. You know, there's that story where, you know, Eric Clapton played on my guitar while my guitar weeps for George Harrison, and so when the Cream was breaking up, they were all tasked. All the members were all tasked with writing an individual song for that album, Cream Goodbye. And so George Harrison and Eric Clapton were together, and Ringo happened to be there too, drunk. And so they decided they'd write, you know, Eric says, hey, I need you to help me now write a song. I played, you know, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the slide for you. And I need your help now. I have to write the final, because he was already practicing with who was it? Well, the Cream. No, Blind Faith. He was already practicing with Blind Faith. And it was broke up, you know. And so so he's sitting there, him and George Harrison, and they write the name of the song down as Bridge. And Ringo was drunk, and he comes over and looks at it upside down. Oh, I see you got a title already, Badge. And so they changed it to Badge because Ringo said that. And then they got stuck on this part, something to do with a girl who looks like Mabel. I can't remember the exact line. And they were really struggling. You know, Eric Clapton and George Harrison were really struggling how to finish this sentence. And Ringo goes, "Oh, just put in something about a girl who looks like Mabel." And they said, "That's it." And they wrote it in there, and it wound up being a hit song.
Oh, yeah.
Called
Well,
Bad.
I mean, he was always there to throw in lyrics. I mean, he did that with the Beatles on Eleanor Rigby. He's the one that suggested that Father Mackenzie dons his socks in the night when there's nobody there.
Now
that's his line.
Now that sounds like a Ringo line from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And isn't like A Hard Day's Night and 8 Days a Week like Ringo
malapropisms? Yes. Yeah, well, John loved his malapropisms.
So Chris, what did you think of Ringo and his all-star band? You must have liked him if you saw him twice. We got to get out of this place. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
We got to get out of this place. Eric Burden and the Animals. I love that song. In fact, we have to get out of this place. The show tonight. I think I'm an hour over what I was expecting. Yeah, Michael. Look at Michael Nolan. Michael Chavez hit the nail on the head. You know, I told you.
Yes.
I was watching Ringo. It was his show, but you know, Paul McCartney was sitting there in the front row, and he called Paul up to do a song with him. And Ringo, I mean, there was no comparison. Ringo's voice was so much better than Paul's. I mean, I was in shock. You know. Right.
Well, I think that Paul can still sing some of his stuff. He needs to get away from Hey Jude. He's far too weak. See, the charm of that song was his ultra silky Hey Jude, and he doesn't have it anymore. And his his yelling ability, that he was the one man who could challenge Robert Plant in that way.
Yeah.
Is thoroughly shot. But there is a range, there is a safe range for him that even with the rasp sounds good live. And can you believe Paul McCartney toured, mega successful, what wound up practically a world tour with him ending up with final shows in Europe. But dig this, Motley Crud got the award for the best tour of 2022.
What?
Yeah.
No,
I swear to God.
Yeah, you covered that, right? You covered it in a recent video.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did in a recent video.
Michael
Can you believe that? Oh man, I was celebrating. Not
John Fogerty's still going, and I missed him at the Paso Robles Fairgrounds this year too. I missed so many people that I've been wanting to see for a long time.
He's on my bucket list, and what's great is that this year, now that he owns the music again, it seems like he's in a very celebratory mood with the Creedence material.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a tour that I look forward to. It's going to be my first time seeing him live.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I want to see him so bad. You know, he actually checked into my channel and featured my video where I announced that he had finally got his rights back, and he put me on his Instagram for it and said thank you, Michael, and all of that. And so I was all, marry me, you know. No, I'm sorry, I'm a Chump fan, you know. Terry Draper from Clat 2 checked into the channel, you know. So you never know when these streams like what we're doing tonight. Right. You know, these artists aren't interested. They do searches on certain things. They like to keep their ear to the grindstone, and you never know when a video will hit like that. You know, I did a video on vocal coaches, and Kenny Loggins' vocal coach got a hold of me. You know, you never know, man. You just never know.
I had the same thing happen to me with the second singer from Boston, Fran Cosmo. When my wife passed away, you know, I made a video using one of the songs that he sang. Next thing I knew, I was getting instant messages from him. You know,
Right.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome, Dan? And that I remember you telling that tale before, months back. But you said that this was a real important time to you because you were emotionally spent, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it couldn't have come at a better time and all of that. You know, these people, you know, they shite and get off the pot like the rest of us, and they're interested in what people are saying about them. You know,
actually, when that happened, my wife hadn't passed away yet. She was about a month away from passing away, and it was our anniversary. And that's I made the video for our anniversary, and I even showed my wife, you know, the text from Fran. You know, she was impressed that Fran Cosmo from Boston, you know, loved the video, and you know that I used his song in it, and so that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
amazing.
Michael, I mean, I love that too. How Fogerty got sued for plagiarizing his own song.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
And for sounding too much like himself.
Yeah. Wasn't that old man down the road, Michael?
Yeah.
It was Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Well, you know, listen, folks, we're going to have to sign off here. And Dan, Bruce, Michael, thank you all so much for helping out. The chat was on fire tonight. I really appreciate everybody that was in the chat. You guys had so many great comments. And I just appreciate that you showed up and participated, and really enjoyed all of you. So anyway, we're going to sign off. By
the way, guys, I really enjoyed this round table. This was a good one tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly went from not knowing if I was going to be by myself tonight to having like a great cast here, you know. But anyway, so awesome. Guys, thank you all very much, and we're going to sign off now. And that's what's happening in Royce's world today. Thank you so much.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
See you later.
Have a great week.